in your mind, do you ever wonder maybe this is Ryan's baby?
Well, because of the fact that we've already done a paternity test and posted those results, and I understand there's a whole tinfoil hat community that wants to believe that everything we post is fake or bullshit or Photoshop.
It's about accountability and getting to the bottom of the facts. Let's dive in. Ken describes the baby as arriving at 36 weeks, a little early, but in his words, perfectly healthy. He emphasizes repeatedly that there were no complications. No NICU stay, no C-section. While this might seem comforting at first glance, the level of reassurance feels oddly excessive.
I literally have no motive or reason, personally, speaking for myself, to lie about that. So I'm telling you with 100% certainty, because I did a paternity test, that is my child. And I have absolutely zero reason to lie about that.
Why the need to convince us so strongly that everything was fine? It feels as though he's trying to control the narrative before anyone even questions it. What stands out even more is the lack of clarity around why Gypsy went into labor early.
Now, I'm not talking about your child because she's innocent. I'm just curious why Gypsy had her baby a whole month early and there was...
Our baby was born at 36 weeks. She was a tiny bit early, but she was perfectly healthy. And
a natural birth at 36 weeks isn't unheard of, but without context, it's hard to ignore the gap. Was there an underlying medical issue? Could stress or other external factors have played a role? Ken avoids these questions altogether, shifting focus entirely to the baby's health while leaving Gypsy's condition during the pregnancy conspicuously unaddressed.
She never went to the NICU. She was a natural birth, and she came home with us 2 days later. And she's been incredible. She's been growing. She's been the best baby ever. And what else do you want to know?
It's almost as if the details of her experience are being left out intentionally. Another curious point is Ken's repeated emphasis on the baby's natural delivery. While it's great that there were no NICU concerns, his insistence on framing the situation in the most positive light feels forced. Rather than offering transparency, his narrative comes across as overly defensive, almost as if he's anticipating criticism and trying to shut it down before it begins.
My question was, does that confirm that you didn't hook up or cheat before Gypsy admitted?
Everything I've told you has been the truth.
Okay.
How much did the baby weigh? How much did the baby weigh at birth?
Then there's the timing. Could the pressures surrounding Gypsy's public image have contributed to the early labor? The scrutiny over her past and the constant media attention could very well have been a factor. But Ken doesn't acknowledge this, sidestepping any discussion that might link external stress to the situation. Instead, his narrative seems to stay on safe, rehearsed ground. The story becomes even murkier when the topic of birth control arises. Ken is quick to say Gypsy was on it, but his response is abrupt and lacks any elaboration.
I'm not gonna disclose that.
Wait, I have a question because he just said he never lied. He never lied and he did. You said in Natasha Cooper's live that Gypsy was on birth control. That is a lie. Yes or no?
No, it was not a lie.
Birth control is a straightforward topic, yet his hesitation and clipped tone leave room for doubt. Was she truly on birth control, or is this another element of the story designed to shield them from scrutiny? And then there's the contradiction about their relationship. Ken has previously described their connection as just friends, yet now they're preparing to raise a child together. The blurred timeline and conflicting details make it harder to trust his version of events. If there's nothing to hide, why does the story keep shifting? Ultimately, Ken's repeated insistence that he's telling the truth feels more like a performance than a genuine attempt at transparency.
Okay.
So she was
But
on birth
you
control?
But you also said in that same live that you guys were just friends and weren't having relations.
It was the first time that we met up, and we were just friends. Moving on.
The cracks in his narrative don't just undermine his credibility. They invite deeper questions about the entire situation.
Also, keep in
Sure.
mind that Gypsy could have been telling him that she was on birth control. I'm not trying to cause issues, Ken, but she could have been lying, and you might still not know the truth. I'm just saying that's a possibility.
No.
Was Gypsy truly on birth control? Or is this claim just a convenient way to sidestep accountability for the inconsistencies in their timeline? Ken's vague and defensive responses suggest he wasn't prepared for such scrutiny.
The way that Lifetime, the trailer for season 2 coming up here, we're going to see in March, I believe, portrayed you, do you feel like it seemed like you're confused?
His reluctance to provide a straightforward answer hints at a broader tendency to construct explanations on the spot. The fact that such a simple question triggered such an outsized reaction only fuels skepticism. If his words are truthful, why does it feel so challenging for him to present them clearly?
Because if you're like, I didn't
That's how
want this
trailers are
baby,
set up.
I'm surprised.
They're set up to make you want to watch what the actual context of the conversation was. But you'll have to watch the show to find out what that context was.
Well,
So
yeah,
you
These moments reveal a pattern evasion and over-explaining, classic traits of someone trying to control the narrative rather than let the facts speak for themselves. Ken's defensive stance doesn't build trust. Instead, it deepens the doubts surrounding his version of events, entangling the story further in a web of inconsistencies. Ken's suggestion to watch the episode for full context feels like a strategic redirection.
telling us Lifetime set us up for...
I'm not telling you that Lifetime did anything. I'm just telling you that trailers are set up to make you want to watch the episode for the full context. So if you want to watch the episode for the full context of that conversation...
If there's important context to share, why not offer clarity upfront? This ambiguity only raises more questions. Moreover, his dismissal of viewer concerns as mere trailer edits downplays the seriousness of the accusations. It reflects a consistent pattern deflecting difficult questions rather than addressing them head-on.
You'll have to watch the show.
It just seemed like what you said in the trailer was you were surprised that, or you were disappointed that this baby was born the way it...
Ken's reluctance to provide clarity also raises suspicions about what might be hidden beneath the surface. If the trailer was edited to create suspense, as he implies, why not preemptively clarify his comments to prevent further misunderstandings?
You were even ready for it, and you thought
Nope.
you should have got the divorce.
like
The
I said,
divorce should
you'll
have been
have to-
settled first before you actually...
Again, you'll have to watch the show to find out the full context of that conversation. I can't.
Ken,
I have
why
no
is,
control over how edits are made.
Okay.
You know.
His failure to do so suggests a calculated comfort with letting ambiguity linger, perhaps shifting blame to the network while avoiding personal responsibility. This approach speaks to a larger issue, a tendency to lean on external factors, like the network's editing decisions, to explain controversies rather than confronting them directly.
If the baby wasn't due until January 25th, why did Gypsy on Breeze
It wasn't
Live say that
the
she was supposed to be in
It was the
22nd.
22nd.
Okay, but that's not my
Was
question.
it the 22nd, Ken?
Why did
The
Gypsy say
22nd was the original due date. Yes.
January. Okay. Go ahead. Dee.
Yesterday was the due date.
so? When Gypsy was on Breeze Live 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, she said that she was supposed to be induced on that day. Why so early?
It gives the impression that Ken is more concerned with maintaining a carefully curated public image than engaging in genuine transparency. If the Lifetime network truly manipulated his words, as he insinuates, one would expect a stronger, more passionate defense or criticism of how his story was handled. Instead, Ken offers vague reassurances, leaving viewers to fill in the gaps.
No, the original induction date was supposed to be the 16th, not the 22nd. And but the baby made an early appearance. But luckily she was totally healthy and happy, and the doctor sent us home. There was no NICU, there was no C-section, it was a natural birth. I swear to that. I have no reason to lie about that. I have no motive to lie about that. That is the truth. And we got lucky, and I'm just happy and blessed that she was healthy, and everything has been great.
When the topic shifts to Gypsy's book, Ken's abrupt refusal to discuss it is telling. "I'm not going to talk about the book. We're moving on," he says. This dismissal raises immediate questions. What is he avoiding? If the book is meant to shed light on Gypsy's experiences, why the hesitation? Could it be that discussing the book would expose inconsistencies in Gypsy's narrative or force Ken to confront difficult truths? This avoidance fits into a larger pattern of selective transparency.
In your mind, do you ever wonder maybe this is Ryan's baby?
Well, because of the fact that we've already done a paternity test and posted those results, and I understand there's a whole tinfoil hat community that wants to believe that everything we post is fake or bullshit or photoshopped. I literally have no motive or reason, personally, speaking for myself, to lie about that. So I'm telling you with 100% certainty, because
By refusing to engage with the book's content, Ken indirectly fuels doubts about both its credibility and his willingness to be forthcoming. Gypsy's book plays a pivotal role in her public narrative, recounting the events leading to her mother's murder and her subsequent imprisonment. Ignoring such a significant piece of the story doesn't just undercut its intended purpose of providing insight. It raises red flags about what aspects of Gypsy's story Ken might be uncomfortable addressing. Ken's abrupt shutdown of this topic also creates the impression that there is something to hide.
I did a paternity test, that is my child. And I have absolutely zero reason to lie about that.
What kind of
I believed it was yours. I just didn't know if maybe you guys hooked up sooner than you said, you know?
Right.
No, that's not necessarily true. You know,
Oh, I was
the-
just saying what
Necessarily
my
true.
train of thought was. Like, I didn't know, I'm not you,
Right.
so.
yeah.
nothing I have ever said to anybody on any live panel, podcast, etc., has been a lie.
If the book merely reinforces Gypsy's consistent claims of truth, why the reluctance to discuss it? This silence invites speculation about what contradictions or troubling details the book might reveal, details that could challenge the carefully managed narrative Ken and Gypsy are trying to maintain. Beyond that, refusing to discuss the book represents a missed opportunity for Ken to clarify any misunderstandings or misrepresentations it may contain. Instead, his reluctance to engage only amplifies doubts.
Hey, come
Well,
on.
if you're gonna get rude and
I'm sorry, it's in her
inappropriate, I'm
book.
not
It's in
gonna-
her book. It's a fair question. It's in her book. I'll stop.
Did you read the book, Ken?
I have read the book.
And what are
I'm
your
not gonna
thoughts?
talk about the book. We're not gonna get into the book.
Why?
Why not,
I
Ken?
just don't want to. I don't want to.
It doesn't
What are
matter.
your
Yeah,
thoughts
let's just
about
leave
it?
that.
We're not gonna talk about this.
If you were to rate it 1
Are
to
you
5,
proud of
like
her book?
a movie.
Are you proud? Are you
I'm
proud
proud
of
of
it?
Gypsy.
Leaving viewers with more questions about what lies beneath the surface of this tightly controlled story. Instead of addressing the concerns head-on, Ken's deflections only reinforce the perception that certain aspects of Gypsy's story are being deliberately avoided. This raises a bigger question. Is Ken truly committed to transparency, or is he simply engaging in damage control to shield Gypsy from further criticism?
She's for sharing her story, and that's all there is to say.
Were you at the book signing?
Wait,
I was
hold on.
not. I had to
Question.
work.
You
I
had
have
to
a
work.
question. I have a question, just real quick.
Go ahead.
You know, did you learn new things when you read the book?
That's a great
Of course.
question.
That's a good question.
Of course.
What did you
So,
learn?
was
I'm
there
not
a
gonna
lot of
talk about the book.
stories? Well, I'm not. I'm just generally asking. Like, were
Well, I
there
know you're
stories
asking
in
about it,
there
but
that
I'm not gonna talk about the book.
Was the
so we can move on.
was it
Aurora is in great hands. She has a loving mother and father, and a supportive family. While Ken's reassurance about CPS may initially sound comforting, it's impossible to ignore the shadow cast by Gypsy's past. Her involvement in her mother's murder, coupled with a history of manipulation and deceit, raises valid concerns about her ability to navigate the responsibilities of parenthood. Ken's blanket assurances fail to meaningfully address these concerns, leaving room for skepticism.
in your mind? Do you ever wonder maybe this is Ryan's baby?
Well, because of the fact that we've already done a paternity test and posted those results. And I understand there's a whole tinfoil hat community that wants to believe that everything we post is fake or bullshit or Photoshop.
This refusal to engage with legitimate questions about Gypsy's past is a critical flaw in Ken's narrative. While growth and change are possible, his defensive approach suggests an unwillingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Gypsy's history of calculated actions, including those that were central to her mother's tragic fate, brings into question whether these patterns could resurface and influence her role as a mother. Additionally, Ken sidesteps the practical realities of co-parenting with Gypsy. What safeguards are in place to ensure a stable and nurturing environment for Aurora?
I literally have no motive or reason, personally, speaking for myself, to lie about that. So I'm telling you with 100% certainty, because I did a paternity test, that is my child. And I have absolutely zero reason to lie about that.
Given Gypsy's tumultuous past and complex relationship with the truth, Ken's failure to address these issues creates a significant gap in the narrative. Are they relying heavily on external family support? Is the responsibility of parenting equally shared, or does one party carry more of the burden? Ken's unwillingness to acknowledge valid concerns from those who are aware of Gypsy's background makes his reassurances feel hollow. Simply stating that Aurora is in great hands without offering concrete examples or strategies for ensuring her well-being does little to inspire confidence. Addressing these concerns with clarity and honesty would go a long way in easing doubts.
Now, I'm not talking about your child because she's innocent. I'm just curious why Gypsy had her baby a whole month early and there was...
Our baby was born at 36 weeks. She was a tiny bit early, but she was perfectly healthy. And
without that transparency, Ken's words come across as superficial rather than substantive. Anyone who wants to be a part of Aurora's life is welcome to reach out to me. Ken's openness to connecting with the Petrie family is commendable on the surface, but his vague phrasing leaves room for doubt. Will Gypsy be equally receptive to this connection? If not, how does that align with Ken's assurances? This moment underscores a recurring issue in Ken's statements. Promises made without clear plans for follow-through.
she never went to the NICU. She was a natural birth, and she came home with us 2 days later. And she's been incredible. She's been growing. She's been the best baby ever. And I mean, what else do you want to know?
While his intentions may sound comforting in theory, the absence of actionable details leaves much to be desired. As we dissect Ken's responses, a troubling pattern emerges, one marked by deflection, vague language, and defensiveness. While Ken and Gypsy aim to project an image of a loving family and a fresh start, inconsistencies in their story suggest a different narrative. These cracks in their carefully constructed image demand scrutiny and raise critical questions about accountability, transparency, and truth. What are your thoughts? Share them below as we continue to unravel the complexities of this story.